Xena Warrior Princess. She's trying to be so good. I gotta do this every time I walk through the yard. I gotta give her a little bit of petting. So what I'm gonna do over the course of a couple of episodes here is just kind of give you an idea of what it's like to just get set up production-wise for a couple of interviews that I'm doing for a documentary. It's just one fragment of what goes into just going out and filming for a day.
In a world where nuclear war has begun, vampires fought back in super real 3D.
So the day before any shoot, that's my gear prep day, and that's what I'm doing today. I'll be bringing the Red and the Sony FS700, Red Epic Dragon, and the Sony FS700 attached to a 7Q unit, and that's what gives it the ability to do ProRes, 4K, etc. That is a beast of a camera that actually matches extremely well with the Red Epic Dragon. One of the guys that I'm interviewing tomorrow, his name's Will Hunt. So if you type in just Will Hunt, this is what'll come up. And as you can see here, these are some of the bands that he has played with and continues to play with and touring the world. That's a pretty impressive list there. It's a really massive undertaking to do a documentary on a band that has been around for 50 years. It takes me about 4 to 5 hours to gear up for a shoot. I do most things independently. I just finished making my gear list, so there's a lot of things, and all this stuff, you know, has to be bagged up and prepped, possibly cleaned depending on what it is. I gotta clear cards and make sure that all data is backed up and stuff. So I'm bringing all this out just for 3 interviews, because I want to light them cool. The heat dish at the end is to keep people warm because there's no AC or heat in the warehouse. So I've got to get together all my lights, I got to get together all my stands. These C-stands are heavy, man. And I use my wagon to carry loads of everything. That's one of the best pieces of kit I've got. But C-stands are a really big step up from normal stands. I highly recommend getting some. You can just mount the lights a lot of different ways that you normally can't if you're using a cheap stand. You can't really put it on a boom arm and extend it out without heavily weighting it. It's very suspect as to whether it's going to fail. All the sound associated with it, all my cables. So this is kind of like my sound / interview kit. I've got my color chart there. I've got different connectors for different inputs that I might need to use for sound. I got my EVF monitor. This thing actually, you know, it works. It's awesome to use, but it drains the battery that much faster, and the Red drains a battery like none other. And then I got various XLRs in there and other mics. So I've got a few different mic setups. If you really want to impress some people, show up with one of these to your interviews before you film it. Wipe down anybody wearing dark clothes at that. They'll look great, but they're also just super impressed at your attention to detail. When I shoot the Red, one thing that I have to do is data offloading. So I've got to bring my data case, I got to bring my laptop, I've got to do some data offloading in between interviews that I'm doing. And now I've got to get my laptop. I brought it up to the house because sometimes I run it into my TV to get some other kinds of internet feeds that I don't get off the Xbox. Got it over here. It's already packed up actually. Pretty nice. If I'm going to start vlogging like this, I have to get one of those little flexible tripods that you can use as a handle. Right now I'm just holding this camera, the Manfrotto plate, and it's lame. As if it's not lame enough. Holding everything with one hand. This is going to be challenging. I got to get the hang of this. I'm start documenting this stuff a little bit more though. Give you guys an inside scoop. What it's like to do production work. Pretty much by yourself. Probably be doing 3 interviews total tomorrow, both camera rigs. This is a Red Mag. This is what records, if you've never seen one, this is what goes into a Red. And that's the only thing it will record on. So I stick it in the slider here. And I love how fast these things mount. It's already done, it's in. So these are like some clips that I was filming on the music video for Cosmic Key. And there I am actually instructing him on where to stand, and all that. This was sort of the Cosmic Key music video. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I know that I've already edited this video as far as the layout. Now I'm going to spend a week polishing this thing out. Let's back in. I'm going to hit the SSD, format media, format it. Yes, format it. It's formatted. It's done. So that card's done. I'm going to go ahead and eject it. Hit one button, and it's ejected, and I can pull it out. That's the fastest system for data of this magnitude, raw files like this in 6K resolution, and it's going to handle it that fast. It's amazing. They are expensive, man. So this 240 gig, if you were to buy it new, is $1,250. And then I got another one there. A couple more of these bad boys. $4 to $5 grand worth of media. And now for the Sony FS700, I'm going to be getting my 7Q ready, and that is what I run the 700 to, so that way I can record in ProRes rather than internal ABC HD, which is pretty weak and only does HD. This is 4K ProRes or RAW, and RAW is beautiful, but again, it's like a terabyte for 1 hour of footage in RAW on the Sony system. Completely opposite scenario for the Red. So I have a lot of SSDs that I built up, and that's, well, really the reason is I didn't have a Red. And so I was working on Sony when they were brand new, and the 7Q just makes them so powerful that I haven't needed to upgrade the Sony units, but I have gone on to get the Red system. So at first, when this 7Q unit came out, you could only buy proprietary SSDs, and these things, just a 256 gigabyte, was like $800. Yeah, this was $800. And so I was like, oh my God. But then they made it so you could actually, in a firmware update, you could start buying regular Samsung Evo SSDs, and that made it much more affordable. So this is a terabyte for like $400. Significant difference. And I can see here, this is actually, I was filming this on the A7S because it's on the Ronin. I can see it's a gliding cam shot. And I have a separate 7Q unit that lives on the Ronin up there. So the A7S is that I'm using now is normally living on this, running to that. But for this little vlog experience, I am just rolling with some HD right in the camera just to document some of this stuff for you guys. Also using the FS700 for this music video shoot because I love it. It's great. When you use the 7Q, it looks dynamite. And it can completely rival the Red as long as it's in controlled lighting. Here I just let this guy live on here. Edelkrone EVF mount they've got. It's a great little thing. I mean, it's like $220 for this one little mount. Anyway, all this shit's so expensive, it's ridiculous. I put on the, I got a Bauer plate back here so I can put on gold mount batteries for long running power. This guy really does rival the Red on certain shots, as long as you can control the lighting, and especially if you're using a longer lens. I think that if you put a wider lens on the Red and you're outside and you want it to, you start seeing dynamic range happen between the sky and the trees. This doesn't match the Red. I mean, the Red has 16.5 stops of dynamic range. This guy is like debatable. It's arguable. I've never measured. I just do it by eye. But roughly, everyone says it's between 10.5 to 11.5 at the most. So that's a significant difference in dynamic range from shadows to brights before you go to complete pitch black and lose all detail, and before you go to complete blown out white. So having a larger dynamic range, like 16.5 stops on the Red, which is just massive, in comparison to 10, you're going to be able to have a lot more of that high dynamic range look that you're seeing happen in all these TVs being sold, etc. They're pushing HDR, high dynamic range. Got the SSDs in here, Red Mags here, 2 SSDs in here that I can offload to that are 1 terabyte each. I've got the Red Mag reader so I can offload the Red Mags. You have to have that in order to communicate with the computer. And then I've got my SATA to USB cable so that way I can connect these SSDs directly to the laptop. I got to get the questions written out. I'm going to do a lot based off of questions I'd already used for other guys that I've already interviewed that are current band members. These are the first 2 that I've interviewed that are former band members. Going in with the right frame of mind is really important, and that's more than just knowing what questions you want to ask. It's like going in hopefully a really conversational zone where you just feel like a really real person to them, and you genuinely are asking questions out of curiosity. How much my wagon helps? If I do a good job on the questions, they should intuitively almost guide themselves, and oftentimes that's what happens. I'll write out a pretty long list, I'll look at it at the beginning, we'll begin the conversation / interview, and I'll cue off the first couple of questions, and it just takes off. And then by the end of the interview, I've maybe looked at my question list a couple of times. I look at it at the end just to make sure that I didn't forget something specifically. And usually there's one or two things, but so much just happens naturally that that's my favorite way to conduct an interview.
More bags adding to it.
I'm gonna try and get in another 10-minute meditation. I gotta write my questions out. And somehow I'm hoping that I can slip in another at least 1 hour on editing the Cosmic Key video some more, which is the edit that I was working on all weekend. And I think I've got everything laid out in a sequence that I'm happy with. And now I'm tightening it up. And then I'll color grade. And the cropping, stabilizing, and color grading usually takes me a full week. I love color grading. That's, to me, is a large part of my signature look in the videos. Your color grade really needs to revolve around quality skin tones, and if the skin's not toned properly, then know that you're doing that and really push that look and that tint all the way through it. So it's like a filter of color. I like the way I did it in my Moments video. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link in that. That's actually one of my favorite videos I've ever made. Blue all the way through that, and I really enjoyed how that came out. I've never done a video that was all blue like that. It was almost like a monochrome in a way with really intense reds. This is new for me to try and document this way, and it did throw me off a little bit. It's gonna take a minute for me to get all this up and running. I decided randomly that I was gonna go ahead and dedicate myself to start doing this officially and start making regular videos, and I'm gonna do it, but I need to go ahead and order a few little things, so I'm sorry if this video is a little sloppier. They're gonna get better really fast. I need a couple little things to help stabilize while I'm walking. I probably need to go ahead and invest in a lens that has an autofocus on it if I'm going to be hopping around. On to the next step. And tomorrow is the actual shoot. Yay.
Movie voice.